Okay, everyone, we have a very close friend as our guest today. Yenzi, it was a blast catching up with him. Stuart O'Grady, the man, not the myth. What do you think?
It was so good to catch up with him. I mean, he's always good for a nice chat, for a good laugh. And the stories, the memories we had, man, unreal. Unfortunately, we cannot take everything on tape of these memories. But it was great. Like one moment I had with Stewie late in our careers. I'm riding tempo in the Tour Down Under, trying to catch the break because we had Bernardi as a sprinter. And then Stewie's voice behind me, he was with Green Age back then. He went, "Hey, Yenzi, remember, we are 80 years together and we're still riding in front of the peloton. We're still riding tempo." I think I was 41, Stewie was 39 back then. I said, "Yeah, man, us together, we're 80 years of age, but we're still riding at the front." One of million great moments with Stewie.
Yeah, he was in the peloton a long time, did a lot of great things. I think everyone that raced with him had great memories. So please sit back and relax and enjoy our conversation with Stuart O'Grady. All right. Welcome, Stuart O'Grady, to Bobby and Jens.
G'day, guys. How are you?
Doing good. But, I'm having a hard time, to us, you're Stewie. But to the world, I'm not sure. Do I have to call you Mr. O'Grady now? Legend of the sport, race director of the Tour Down Under. Is it okay that we call you Stewie on the pod today?
It's still me, mate. Nothing's changed. Just a slightly different job description. But it's still me.
But like you're so professional now. You're on time for the podcast. You're sending questions. You even created a little WhatsApp group between you, me, and Jens. I mean, dang, you're like Mr. Organization these days. Just comes second nature, huh?
You gotta be. I mean, plus I'm jet lagged, so I kind of don't know what day it is. I don't know what time it is. And yeah, I just like to pick across a few things before we step in. But yeah, looking forward to having a chat and some fun.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about your voyage from Australia to Bilbao, which is obviously where you are now for the start of the Tour de France.
Yeah, it was a long one, Bobby. I jumped on a Singapore Airlines flight 9 a.m. Sunday morning and had a bit of a stopover in Singapore. And then on the ticket, it said Singapore, Barcelona. So I thought, okay, that's pretty good. But I didn't see in the little writing down the bottom, stopover in Milan. So I had a quick coffee in Milan. And then found myself a few hours later in Barcelona, and then a little stopover, and finally made it to Bilbao. So here we are, ready for another Tour de France.
Tour de France is the key word here. You at the tour. I strongly presume you're not riding it. So what is your function? Why are you here? Please let our listeners, let them know, why are you at the tour?
Well, I'm certainly not going for number 18, Jens. I think I'd struggle to finish a stage, to be honest. I'd probably struggle to ride a stage. No, we have a business, Moo Cycling, which we're one of the official tour operators on the Tour de France. We also do Giro d'Italia, we do Spring Classics and the Vuelta. It's basically just bringing guests, riders, spectators, families to the inner sanctum of the Tour de France. So, we're fully accredited. Our vehicles have stickers on them, so we get access like we're a team car, really. I mean, any closer to the action and we'd have a number on our back. Every day is a different experience. We'll do a stage start, which is, on the start line, riding through the crowds, stop and have a picnic, watch the peloton race by. Another day will be riding the last 30, 40, 50K of a stage, then up on the podium, and then watching it from hospitality. So every day is a different experience. But as you guys know, with our, with all the names and friends in the phone, we can tap on a team bus and or catch up with guys, ride down to a hotel on a rest day and just catch up with friends. And that way the guests also get that really cool experience. So it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I'm living in Australia and working on the Tour Down Under. You're kind of not part of the furniture of the Tour de France and the whole world tour circus. So when you do come back and catch up with everyone, it's genuine. It's good to catch up and it's just a lot of fun.
But how does that work? I mean, you're there for the whole 3 weeks, I assume.
Yeah.
Are there different tours that come in and out? The logistics of that must just be insane. I mean, anyone that's been around the Tour de France, I mean, luckily you said you have those stickers and the credentials. I mean, that makes life a heck of a lot easier. But if you're like switching or turning over camps or different customers, who organizes all that?
We have some staff, Bobby. Certainly not me, that's for sure. You stick to what you're good at, and that's definitely not logistics and spreadsheets, which we've got Paul back in Melbourne and Siska, who's our logistics manager, and the work they do is phenomenal. I think we've got 25 staff on this year's Tour de France across the 3 weeks. We've got 8 different tours, no more than 25, 30 people per group, so it's all pretty intimate and, well packaged, and we have a lot of great staff, a lot of European staff. So, yeah, look, it's a massive, it's like running a small team, to be honest. We have ride guides and, it's the priority is just keeping everyone safe. But at the end of the day, it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So, we want to make sure everyone has the time of their life.
So, Stewie, now I expect an honest answer. You're back at the Tour de France, 3,500 kilometers ahead of you, including the Tourmalet. And you go, oh, yes, hell yeah. Or you go rolling your eyes and go, oh, no, not again this one. Well, what is it for you? How do you feel about the distance, the mountains, the Alps?
Yeah, look, it's easy ends because most of it we do on the side of the road or in a van. You ride certain sections. This isn't all about the riding. It's about the whole experience. And I think that's one of the key messages. This isn't a training camp. You're not here to smash yourself over 5 hours. This is about just taking the best bits of the Tour de France and packaging them up nicely and delivering on a nice silver plate. So it's about the food, the wine, the experience of riding up the Tourmalet. But we'll just probably start at the bottom and just ride that one climb, and then at the top we're in VIP hospitality, having a drink and watching it. So and you go as hard or fast as you want. We stay as a group, but then once we do hit a big climb, the gloves are off. You can go and try and beat the Strava record or compare your time to the pros, or you stay with Stewie, which is a lot slower down the back, waving to the fans. It's really funny. The first time I did one of these, I actually just stopped on the corner, and your brains are going like, come on, you got to go as hard as possible, but you don't have to. You can just stop and say bonjour to all the people on the side of the road and have a can of Sprite and then keep going. It's a lot of fun. It's you really get immersed in the atmosphere. And a lot of the guests, it's their first time. A lot of them, it's their first time to Europe. And the same for the classics. When we take them to Paris-Roubaix, a lot of the guests haven't even seen a cobble before. And over the days, I teach them where to hold their hands and how to hold the bars and what to do, what not to do, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, you don't get that sort of access unless you were a legend of the sport, which you definitely are. But my sister texted me something the other day, just out of the blue, took a picture, showed me a picture of the podium of the Tour de France and said, this was 25 years ago. And I just felt like saying, thanks, Sis. Thanks, Robin. Like, what? Where did that come from? But your memories we all had great memories throughout the Tour de France. We had bad memories throughout the Tour de France, good experiences, bad experiences. But 1998 was pretty special for all of us, I think. But especially yourself. I went through it, and, you started the prologue and finished 15 seconds behind Chris Boardman. Then on stage 1, you were 16th in a sprint. Tom Steels won that one. Stage 2, you were 24th in a sprint. Jan Sforato won that one. Stage 3, you were in a breakaway, and Jens Heppner slipped away right there at the end.
Yeah.
And stage 4, you were 39th in the sprint. My buddy, my personal good friend, Jerome Blylavens, won that stage. And then you take the yellow on stage 5. I mean, what did that mean to you? I mean, I'm sitting here with two guys that had the yellow jersey in the Tour de France. I never did. I came close to a couple seconds away, but never touched yellow. What are your memories of that first time in the yellow jersey?
Yeah, super vivid. I mean, it was only my second Tour de France, and I was lucky enough to be rooming with Chris Boardman both occasions, who'd won the prologue in '97, I think, as well. The '98 we started in Dublin, and Chris rolls off and wins the prologue again. So I'm, rooming with someone that just keeps walking in the door and throwing them on the bed, like, there's another yellow. But look, it elevated this, obviously the motivation and morale of the team. We had Eros Poli on the front, Monkerson in the sprints, at Jens. We had a really good cracker of a team, and Chris actually crashed out. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jensi, but I'm pretty sure Chris crashed out in the yellow jersey, and kind of that left it a bit of unrest, and we didn't really know what to do. So what else do? You go on the attack, and you try and make up for it. So yeah, hopped in a couple of breaks, got some bonus seconds, and then a few days later, with some more aggressive riding, found myself in the yellow jersey. I remember being really upset because struggling to think of his name, the Dutch guy or Belgian who took the yellow jersey the day before me. Mark Falters. We were in that breakaway, and then basically all I had to do was just keep the bunch together to win the yellow jersey. And I just couldn't control it. It was too hard in the end. And there was a diamond. I remember there was a diamond on offer, and you got to meet the king of Belgium as well, which would have been a bit of a buzz because I just got engaged. So it would have been a nice little present for Anne-Marie, but missed out on everything. And I was so devastated because I was sat second in the GC, and the next day was quite a hard climbers day. And I thought that was all the opportunities gone. And then I think Mark must have had a few too many left blondes that night, or maybe too many champagnes, but he actually got dropped on the climbs. And I heard that over the radio. There were waltzes in difficulty, and I just went through the gears. And next minute I'm wearing yellow. So it was a real emotional roller coaster. The old saying, never give up, just hang in there, and anything's possible. And it was a very special occasion. And then obviously a bit later in the tour as well, jumped in another break, and had a lot of tactics there played out in the final, which again I'll never forget. You're in a breakaway all day with this bunch of guys, and then we get to within like 3K of the finish. Two guys, Laura Desbian and someone else, went up the road, and I'm sitting with these three other guys, and I just convinced them to start working again. It was just all on the fly, and we managed to catch them, and I won the sprint. So great memories. Also some pretty crazy memories as well.
And I think we had Magnus Backstedt winning a stage 18, I believe, in the last week. He went in a break, won a stage show. It was a great tour for us. Yeah, I remember that. It was a good tour for us.
Yeah, we're on a good roll there. Boardman used to set that up by winning the prologue, and it just took the pressure off. I mean, we're a French team.
Oh, yeah.
French sponsors. Yeah. Anyone would die to have a stage win or a yellow jersey, and I remember the stress relief every time Chris would walk in, he'd win that. And remember, Jens, he'd be in the camper. I mean, we're campers, they're not buses, right? So, he'd go in the camper, and there's Chris reading his book in the back seat, half an hour before the prologue. And, we all got heavy metal blasting and running around on our 17th coffee. And Chris is in the back asleep, and he'd roll over, whack his helmet on, and just blitz everyone. You used to sit at the table that night going, we could pretty much just go home now. We sponsors are happy, we're all happy, and it just took the edge off. And as you know better than anybody, you take the pressure out of the pressure cooker, and guys actually perform better. You race with freedom, and you see that all the time. You see it when an Alaphilippe or someone wins a stage early on in the tour, and yellow, and next minute they just win, and all the other teams that haven't, they're fighting, they keep getting second, they try even harder, they burn more matches. They get more tired, it's kind of directors that are kind of punishing them for missing the break, and they're just screwing them even more for the next day, and you kind of get on the back foot. And once you're in the back foot in the Tour de France over 3 weeks, you got to be really lucky to get out of it.
Yeah, I remember also it just boosts the confidence of every rider in the team. Everybody's just a little more relaxed, more confident, and it does help everyone. It was good to have Chris early in our career, and later to have Cancellara. I mean, bloody hell, how reliable was he? I went in London at the team presentation. live on Trafalgar Square. Yeah, tomorrow I'm going to show him how it has to be done. And then he wins. Like, he announces it the night before, and then next day he pulls it off and wins with 20 seconds. It was good to have him in the team. And quite often I told myself, I'm so glad I'm not racing against him or I have to chase him, right? I mean, you did many races with Fabian. It must have been good to have him there, right?
Oh, it was awesome. And again, I roomed with Fabian for all that period as well. I think 6 years I shared the room with the big Swiss bear and got to see how he prepared and mentally, got ready for these races. And it was great. I mean, it was such an experience. It's not until on moments like this you get to actually reflect on them, because I don't sit home and talk about rooming Chris Boardman or Fabian 21 back home. But mate, they were great times, and they were great when you won, and they were also, it was a great experience, when you lost. I'm not saying it was fun to lose, but you obviously didn't win the Paris-Roubaix or win Tour of Flanders every time, but the preparation was exactly the same. The mental build-up, the team bonding, everyone just giving 100%. That's all we ever asked for, right through CSC days and GAN days. That never changed. Respect, respect was the one word I took from Bjarne Riis, and I've kept it through to this day with my family. You respect everyone around you, and good things will happen. And great, we had some good times, that's for sure.
But just going down memory lane a little bit, our viewers and our listeners, the Tour de France is the biggest race in the world. There is a different energy. You just going to the sign-in is like you feel so excited, so honored, like the hair on your arms is standing up. You did 17 Tour de France's. I think you and George Hincapie, and then the only person that did more was Sylvain Chavanel, if I remember right.
Obviously, the first one, I was really, really nervous about, but I still got nervous going, not nervous about the event, but you just want to deliver. So the priority was to rock up each year healthy, just rock up the start line healthy. And, I had to go through a few changes as well, going from a sprinter to kind of a stage hunter to, when I signed with Bjarne, he just sat me down and went, you can't sprint. You're not going for the green jersey anymore, which was my whole life. I remember riding with you, Bobby, training, and, like the only way I was going to get in the Tour de France team was to stop sprinting because it was just too dangerous. And, we were going there with different intentions, and I had to make that decision, which wasn't easy. It certainly wasn't easy. So, but once I'd made it, then your full-time commitment and then, the stress and the pressure comes with that. So I just wanted to deliver for whoever we were riding for, whether it was the Schlecks or Carlos or Fabian or Jens or yourself. It was just, you just wanted to do 100%. So I wouldn't say nervous. It's not like, what's nervous? Sitting on an Olympic final on the track, that's nervous. You don't really get nervous before coming to a Tour de France. It's more, I guess, a little bit of anxiety about what lay ahead. Because sure, we all had some great tours, but also, ended one or two of them in an ambulance and a helicopter in one of them. So, there's another element of the anxiety and shit. It's a dangerous game, and just watching what's happened lately, we're all reminded of that, and it cuts it that hits home and just shows you how dangerous it is. So. It's not all champagne and podiums, but for us, it was our life. And there was never one time where I got on the start line or made it to Paris and didn't feel the biggest sense of self-accomplishment and achievement. It was the same on the first one or the same on the 17th, that riding into Paris. Just kind of giving yourself a little nod. Did it again, because I never rode an easy one.
And I don't know how it was for you two guys, but the lap of honor after we finished in Paris, that also never got old for me. I always had goosebumps riding on the Champs-Élysées, completely blocked for us. Like in walking speed, in sneakers, you got, changed, got some nice, clean new jersey on. Fans are waiting for us. That was always one of the highlights for me. I don't know. How was it for you two?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, you had your wife or your family there, which you probably hadn't seen for a month, and only for a very short time before that, because we're a tour of Switzerland and then a training camp. So, I look back and think, how the hell did I have that level of focus and dedication? That's what I think surprises me the most now. I struggle to grab my bike, and I won't even, go out if it's under 25 degrees in Australia. I'll realize, find some form of excuse. But, the fact we used to just get up, put your shoes on and get the job done. I'm baffled at how the mental state that we were in and what we used to put ourselves through. I think that's probably, I still can't understand how many times we rode it or how hard it was. Because it was it's a bloody tough gig. And the moment you kind of leave the world and you click out to the professional peloton for that last time, you're never ever going to be that fit again, and I think that's one of the things I miss. I miss being that fit, and that's why I don't ride a lot anymore, because it's like, what's the point? It's if I can't go up the hill on the big chain ring at whatever K an hour, then I'd probably just prefer to go for a walk, or go down the beach with the kids, but yeah, it's just different, the mindset we're in. It's crazy.
Talking about mindset, that just reminds me of the 2001 tour when you were in the yellow jersey, so we got to start last in the team time trial. Guys, I don't know about you, but that was one of the best memories I have in cycling, because back then, team time trials were not 25K. That was a 67-kilometer team time trial that we did.
Wow.
We won it at 1 hour and 21 minutes. I mean, when was the last time that you've seen a time trial that long on a tour, right? But
I should bring one back.
Talk us a little bit through starting in the yellow jersey, last team to go off in a team time trial. And let's face it, we were not favored to win. I mean, you had US Postal, you had Once, you had these massive teams. What are your memories of that day?
Again, pretty vivid. I mean, I remember having an argument with Roger Leger in the morning. It was bucketing rain. I'd been in a breakaway pretty much every day before that team's time trial. I think it was stage 4. Is that right? I can't remember, but it was pretty early on. Pretty sure I was in a breakaway the second day, and then Jens was obviously up the road, and then I was up the road again. And, horrific conditions, freezing cold, man. My legs were hurting. Like I was hurting, and I'm in the yellow jersey. So I think the day before we'd finished 30 minutes ahead of the peloton. So we'd actually put the whole peloton or delay. So, luckily, otherwise they'd change the rules. It would have only been 13 of us riding for the next 2.5 weeks, which would have been pretty boring. But I went deep in those couple of days in the build-up, and my legs were so sore the morning of the team's time trial. I was getting pretty worried. And then Roger Leger wanted us to do some, warm-up teams time trials. And I just remember sitting on 60K an hour in the bucketing rain, before the start of the stage, just hurting, going, oh my God. I was actually worried I was going to get dropped. I swear to God, I was worried I was going to get dropped. Like, how bad is this? Yellow jerseys is going to get popped out the back, and I'll be like crying as I get, the camera stays with you. And look, it was just one of those days. Once again, once we took off from that start line, I don't think we got very below, what seemed like 55, 56K an hour for the majority of the ride. I remember just sitting in so close to the wheel in front of me. I was like, I don't care if I crash. Just sitting an inch off the wheel in front, rain spitting up on the visor, couldn't see a thing, and just going fast. Maybe you're puncture Bobby, and, we managed to get you back. And, Tor Hushoff, old JV was in there. It was just we were going fast. And, to upstage, obviously Postal and Once, I mean, that was just pure grit and determination. And, I still remember vividly looking down and just seeing, just the colour, the blurred colour of yellow on my shoulders, just going, we just got to keep going. And it does. And everybody says it. It's just, it gives you another gear on the bike, and you go that bit much deeper. And, yeah, I mean, that was for me as well one of the most special days I've ever had on the bike. Doing it with my teammates in the yellow jersey, yeah, it's certainly a highlight for me.
I can only agree to that. And remember, we were also not free of bad luck. You mentioned Bobby had a puncture, then we had another puncture with Anthony Morin, and we left him behind. We said, look, we cannot wait anymore. We need to go. So, but everything just clicked for us, right? We had this rhythm. Whoever felt stronger just did a longer pull, but nobody accelerated or slowed us down. We just, it was really a magnificent day. I know it's very high up in my ranking as well of one of the best moments ever.
That was pretty special.
Yeah, and then he gives the jersey to you, Jens. You have a day in the yellow jersey. Why did I get left out of that? Like, what did I do wrong? I was like, wait, this is going around, and that reminds me of Jens. You had the jersey a couple times in the tour as well, and we were rooming together, and man, when that was draped over like the back of a chair, and it was in your room, but it wasn't yours, you didn't touch it. Like I would walk around it. It had like this force field. And I mean, both of you guys at one stages in the tour had the yellow jersey. There's a lot, I think, they brought it back a little bit, but for a couple years there, they changed. But that lion, the Credit Lyonnais lion, do you still have your Credit Lyonnais lions? Because those were worth their weight in gold back in the day.
Yeah, I did actually. I found a whole suitcase which I'd stuffed them. I'd actually stuffed the suitcase full of them from when we moved out of Luxembourg, and it had been stored away for ages. And recently, it was pretty recently, I'm going to say in the last couple of years, I'm like, what is this old dodgy suitcase about to get thrown in the tip and open it? It was like all these yellow lines burst out. It was so funny. But yeah, it's got a couple. I don't know if I kept them all, but my daughter still has one in her room. They're pretty cool.
Absolutely. I think I have one just behind this wall. There's one sitting somewhere on a closet up there, I think.
And we'll be right back after this short break.
And now, back to our chat with Stewie. And Stewie, so now, yellow jersey. Was that topped by your win in Paris-Roubaix? I mean, I remember that. I was fortunately for myself never selected to be part of that crazy team, so I could watch it on TV. Best race ever to watch on TV. You got your cookie and your coffee and go boys, go and get him. You just sit on your sofa. I remember this big dust cloud, and then you see, hey, there's a CSC jersey, and then Fabian. No, Stewie, it's not Fabian. It was so cool. Would that be also gotta be one of your best moments, no?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Paris-Roubaix was a special one, Enzi. I'd ridden that race many years, and again at the service mainly of Fabian or someone else. But yeah, it was always a little dream in the back of my mind to get on the podium or get a good result. And in the early years, I had a couple of really good ones, and then punctured like deep in the final, which I look back and fire, that could have been, I reckon I would have been a fifth or a couple of top tens, and then you one puncture and I think I was 16th and 18th or something like that. And you go, well, it could have been. So to kind of, when I was rowing with Fabian and when he was the team leader, it was just Fabian's race and we were just his soldiers really. So, that day, to get the green light from Fabian, it was a pretty warm 27 degrees, dusty. I will say hot. It was the hottest day in history at the time in France for April. And yeah, the cycling gods aligned for me. And I had a crash in the Arenberg, puncture in the Arenberg and a crash a bit later on. But the rest worked out pretty good. So, really the team's time trial in yellow, the Paris-Roubaix 2007 and my Olympic gold in Athens are the three kind of real highlights of my career. I mean, there's a few moments every now and then and you kind of go, that was just such a special day. And yeah, certainly Roubaix is a pretty hard one to top. I mean, that's, for me as a cobbled rider for all those years, it was just I'm so lucky. to be able to walk in the door each day and have that great big bloody rock, which is the only trophy my wife will let me have in the house, actually. It's the only thing cycling related in the house. So, just kind of give that a rub every now and then and shake my head, to be honest. And you kind of go, did this really happen? It's like it was like another lifetime ago.
Yeah, you guys made me cry quite a bit. And I remember Magnus winning Paris-Roubaix, you winning Paris-Roubaix. Cyclists, especially after watching the Netflix Unchained video, why do we cry so much? Why do we get so emotional? It's supposed to be a tough man sport, but then we're all bawling like little babies and hugging each other like, boyfriend, girlfriend after the races and stuff. What do you think? Why do we show so much emotion and on live TV and, Netflix specials? What is it?
Well, I think it's just the intensity and the build-up. I mean, that Paris-Roubaix, that was, over 6 months in the making. When I started training 1st of November in Australia and 1st of December, it was like, bang, it's time to, flick up the gears in training. Every training ride I was thinking of Paris-Roubaix. And everything was just a stepping stone to that. It was the last race we did for that kind of classics campaign. And it's just a build-up, it was the racing the Tour Down Under. It was the hard training through summer when everyone's partying and barbecuing. You're out doing 5 or 6 hours in 40 degrees. It was all for Roubaix. It was all for Flanders. I think riders just invest so much and you sacrifice so much on the rare occasions they do come up and, you do actually win. The emotion, you don't even know the cameras are there. You're having almost an out of body experience. I mean, Matty Haming was a great example of that. I don't even think he knew he'd won. It's really weird. You're so far in the hurt locker. At times it doesn't even seem real what's going on. It is. It's like you're in a dream kind of focus. Same kind of thing when you're herding up a mountain in the Tour de France and there's all the crowds and it's like sometimes it's like you're in a bad movie. Actually, it's not. It hurts so much, but you just keep on going.
I think I would like to add 2 more things. One is between us 3, we probably have 20 broken bones added together, at least us 3, 20 broken bones. So when then the happy end shows up, all the price you paid before and how hard it was. And like Stu, you had a long career. You probably have done just like me, like about 1,500 races, 6 days on the track, on the road. And, we end up winning 20, 30 or 40. If you look at the pure numbers, it is terrible. 1,500 races and we end up winning 30 or 40. And that's still a good career, right? So the happy moments are not that often. I think that's why we embrace them so much, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you get beaten a lot. You lose most of your career, as you just stated. So, when you think back to Fabians and those kind of guys that won consistently, I mean, we would just walk around the hotel like, the NBA All-Stars, because you knew the chances of winning were pretty high, or he was at least going to get a podium, So going into a race or a Tour de France, especially those Credit Agricole days, and we didn't have a GC rider, we would just kind of throw the balls on the table and see what happens. Sometimes you even had teammates trying to follow you in the sprint to nab a top 10, so, you not only had the rest of the guys to beat, but sometimes had some inside competition, but, it's a hard world. It's a tough gig, but certainly some incredible race days, some great memories, some hard memories, some fantastic wins. I mean, it's just important that we remember those big good wins, and we get to talk about them every now and then, like now. So they talk about it at home much.
Absolutely. The last day of the tour is quite special, like you guys said. The lap of honor. Sometimes you would get your friends, your wife, your kids able to follow in the car. I remember I had a close family friend that jumped into the back of the car and he was just like, this is insane. Like, Champs-Élysées is closed. But the big parties afterwards. I mean, if you have a good tour, you have a good party. If you have a bad tour, you still have a good party, right? I have a memory of both of you guys. One, Stewie, I think it was 2001 when 2000, you crashed and broke your collarbone, and you came to the party and you had your arm in a sling, and we're sitting there and you were just kind of bopping, and I'm just like, man, he's here, like he's still here enjoying it, but like obviously broken collarbone, little broken wing. And Jens, after the 2001 tour, we were having our little Credit Agricole party, and all of a sudden, this was a thing with French teams that I never participated in, never really understood, but you guys would all rip your shirts off and like dance in the middle of the dance floor, like crazy people. And then Jens put his ripped up shirt around his head, kind of like a bandana, and started doing push-ups down the street, yelling, Adrian. It was such a pressure cooker. And then, that little release, I think we all needed. But then, boom, 2 days later, 3 days later, you're doing another race, and that's in the rearview mirror, right? But
trying to win Hamburg, actually, that's what I was doing.
Yeah, trying to win Hamburg, San Sebastian, something like that. But as a rider, very early on, the Tour Down Under, which you are now race director of, started. And we were like, wait, we're going to go all the way to Australia to do a race. But you were basically a ambassador for that race from the start when you were still a rider. Yeah. Tell us some of the tricks that you used to get guys to go down there, especially in the early days when it was first starting out.
Yeah, that's a good point, Bobby. I mean, obviously being an Adelaide boy myself, and Mike Turto, when he created the idea, and kind of, I thought he was joking at the start of every year, I'd catch up with him and say, Stu, I'm going to bring him, I'm going to have a stage race in Adelaide. I'm going to bring Europe to Adelaide, and kind of laugh it off and go back to Europe for 10 months, come home December, January, and 1 year he actually said, we're going to go ahead with it, and I want you to be the ambassador. Okay, no worries. Again, I've only been having training camps in Po for about 80 years. I'm sure, I'm sure I'll be happy to come to Adelaide. So it was a real game changer. Roger didn't do it the first year, but I think it took a little bit of negotiating and a lot of convincing. But no, we did go down to the first year in 99, and I promised him I shook his hand and said I'll win, and luckily that came true. But yeah, look, we used to basically come home. I think Telecom came down home, Jack and Jones. There's a couple of other teams, AG2R. I think they saw an opportunity. There was a market down there. The sun was shining. We used to do some crazy training kilometers in the build-up. The weather really turned it on. So instead of going to a training camp and riding in freezing conditions like we used to do in Po, why wouldn't you go to Australia and train? So it only took one tour down under, really. And then once those images and those riders came back, and you had all the French guys and the Belgians coming into Grand Prix Marseillaise and Classic Haribo, and then this group of Australian guys coming back tanned. I think I won Haribo a few years in a row just because of the form you bring back with you, and then Eric Zabel and Stefan Vestman, quite a few of those guys used to come down at the start of December actually, and spend a whole month before the Tour Down Under training. And then Zabel won how many Milan San Remos in a row? So people very quickly went, yeah, right, what's he doing different? That's right, he's doing 1,200 kilometers a week in South Australia. So it didn't take a lot of convincing. People were seeing the results. That if you came down and you did your big block of training, followed it up with some great racing, it's also good for the morale, right? I mean, you instead of being on a training camp, you've got crowds of people, Australians, all flying over. It was a cracking race. You'll stay at the Hilton Hotel right in the CBD. You got a big tour down under Team Village, which, the guys, once they land in Adelaide, you don't leave the hotel. So you're staying in a nice 5-star hotel in the centre, 10-minute tram stop, and you're down at Glenelg having ice cream on the beach at night. Look, at the end of the day, as we know, you want to train, but you also want to feel good. And I think the good sensations, the little bit of a rock star kind of feeling and welcome that you get in Adelaide, it does a lot for the confidence. And that confidence, you carry on to the next race. And as we know, any sport, it's all about confidence. And once you get on that winning roll, it can carry you the whole way through the season. So for me personally, it was really important to start Tour Down Under and at least get a good result. I'd always try and win, of course, but that didn't always happen. But I wanted to come to Europe feeling good. I've done the hard work. Now I'm ready to rip into the classics. So it was a really, really important piece of my puzzle. And it was the same for a lot of the guys. A lot of the classics, I'm talking Flanders, Roubaix, used to come down to the TDU for that specific period.
Well, and to make it more clear to our listeners, you stayed the entire week in the same hotel. The longest transfer is like an hour. Mostly you can ride either to the stage on the bike or back from the stage finish to your hotel is like a 10-minute, 15-minute bike ride. The service for bikes, there's a big, huge tent right across the street from the hotel. So for the mechanics, you don't have to pack the truck every night. They put up the tent. They can work 10 days in the same tent. You walk across the street. So just super easy and convenient, just lovely for everyone. That's why people loved it so much. And now, Stewie, you're the director of all of that. You didn't have to change too much, right? It was already a winning recipe. What were the little tweaks and things you changed there?
Yeah, look, it's a dream come true for me, obviously, for me to take over the reins from Mike Turner, who did an incredible job creating and building and delivering such a great event. But, without the support of the South Australian government and the South Australian Tourism Commission, we wouldn't have an event. It's the only race in the world which is owned and run by a government organisation. And you can see that we just don't leave any detail unturned. We want to make sure from the moment guys step off their Singapore Airlines plane until the moment they get to the Hilton and they're gone again, that we take care of things that most race organisers don't. There's fridges full of drinks. There's obviously the Tour Down Under Village. There's an expo next door. The sun's normally shining. The drinks are flowing. The whole of Australia's in their summer holidays. So it's just a really good vibe. It's just a great time to be in Adelaide in South Australia, and we have got that. I think we're coming up to the 24th edition next year. I'm fortunate enough to be, the race director now, which for me is a massive honour and a huge privilege to be able to design stages where I grew up training. I know every little speed bump and nook and cranny in the hills and the beaches, and to be able to kind of design the race and work with the team I've got back home who are just next level. It's just the team there just go above and beyond for everybody and everyone. From the mechanics to the soigneurs to every person, the staff. I mean, we really try and have a lot of pride in delivering the best possible event we can. And we take a lot of care, and obviously safety is our number one priority. We've got great support from the police, which is very unique and rare around the world. The police absolutely love working on the Tour Down Under. I think they wish it went for 3 weeks because it's a lot of fun. It's certainly challenging, but we're also working really hard now with the women's. We're a women's world tour status, so working really hard with Nettie Edmondson and Carly Taylor, the two assistant women directors, and again delivering the best women's event possible. And it's not a job. It's a passion. We love it. You're just getting out there and doing what we love in the world, which we all love. So for me, it's almost pinch myself, to be able to live home, which, I spent 20 years living in Europe, which was tough, spending 10 months a year away from your family, to be able to now live back in Adelaide, working on the tour down under and kind of welcoming everyone down each January and showcasing our state, our wine, our beaches, our food. It's fantastic. So, as you know, you've been there many times yourself, and Bobby, you were there in those early years as well. The only thing that's changed really is the quality of the field. I think when I won it, everyone was coming down on holiday. And now, with the World Tour points, everyone's primed and fit and on fire already. Because as we know now, especially with this new UCI relegation elevation system in place, every point counts. So teams are coming down, taking it serious. There's not too many guys, walking around down on the beaches after stages. They're all doing their recovery and ice baths, and they're a lot more professional these days. But there's a lot more at stake.
But being an ex-rider and being an ambassador, and then all of a sudden becoming a race director, let's face it, we complain a lot. I mean, things aren't exactly perfect. You hear of them. Now you have to take on a different role, almost like a politician, probably saying like, yeah, you're probably right. But what have you had to learn after retiring and now becoming a race director about dealing with those people that complain a lot? Because we do that a little bit too much.
Yeah, very good point, Bobby. And I think every rider should have to do like some kind of work experience in a race organisation just to see the magnitude of work that goes on behind the scenes. I had no idea. None of us have any idea of working with councils, with governments, road closures, the police. It is endless. Delivering a bike race, for us, safety is paramount, right? So it doesn't matter if it's a local, when in the 2 years of COVID, we ran a Santos Festival of Cycling because we couldn't obviously fly in the airports were closed. So we ran a domestic race for the National Road Series just for Australian domestic teams. The work that went into that was the equivalent of what went into the International World Tour race. There was no difference. The teams were the only difference. The level of, safety protocols all across the board is exactly the same, whether or not we're delivering a domestic race or an international tour down under. So, look, I'd be here for hours if I told you kind of what it was like really. But that's what makes the team that you're working with so critical. And that's where I'm so lucky, because I have a whole office behind me of people that are working on it day in, day out, all year round. And yes, it's great fun to deliver a bike race, but we want to make sure it's the safest, the best, and the most liked race in the world. And it just takes a lot of work. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, which I'll definitely say I actually think it was easier riding. Like, you train. I mean, that's what you're paid to do, right? You're a paid professional athlete. You woke up in the morning, you had your coffee, you had your toast, put your bike shoes on, you went out and smashed yourself. You came home, you had a massage. All you got to really worry about is what time's dinner, and then you do it again. The race director gig, it doesn't stop, and the phone doesn't stop either. First time you wake up in the morning until you choose to set it off at night. Issues arise, and normally no one rings through to tell you what a great job you're doing and how beautiful is the weather. Normally the phone rings, there's a problem. So it's putting out spot fires pretty much for the whole tour. And the best part is once you drop the flag and the riders actually start racing, because that's when, for those moments that there's not an accident, or there's not a car broken down, or it's not a branch, or it's not a protester, or it's not something else, you get to actually sit back and watch the riders perform. And, all the work that's gone into a beautiful big stage that you're delivering to the World Tour teams, you actually get to see the players play. And that's definitely the highlight.
So now, easier question for you, Stewie. You took over for Mike Turner, right? Now that he's retired, is he actually smiling a little more? Is he a little more relaxed, or is he still the god poet Mike Turner as we know him?
No, Mike's smiling. I caught up with him actually. Just a bit of a name drop for you, but I caught up with him at Eddie Merckx's house when I was over for the Classic. So I'd organised to catch up and have a coffee with Eddie, and no joke, Eddie says, "Why don't you come on Tuesday? Mike Turner's coming Tuesday." He's got to be joking. So I went a little bit early. I didn't tell Mike that, but I went about an hour early and just had a bit of one-on-one time with Eddie. And then, it was pretty funny, actually. You're sitting there with the two, one past, one current race directors of the Tour Down Under, just sitting there having a coffee and a chat with Eddie Merckx. It's a very surreal moment. But again, it's those opportunities which cycling has brought to us. The fact that, you get to, just have contact with Eddie and for him to invite me around, I wasn't going to say no to that. So, cycling has been one hell of a journey, but it's the people, the places, the relationships which you build over time, makes it very special. And, it's we're very lucky, aren't we, to be able to do what we've done, and now to kind of sit back and, I don't want to say sit back and take it in, but certainly the Tour Down Under, I'm just thinking, what can I do better next year? What can I, innovations, how can I create the most exciting, entertaining, visually beautiful race that I can? That's what I'm thinking of, like constantly. Like even when I've been here in Bilbao, I'm thinking about stages in the 25th edition for the TDU. And you've got to be here on the ground and see what they're doing at the Tour de France. You've got to be over there seeing what they're doing at Tour of Flanders and the Giro, and constant innovations and new technologies, and there's so much competition for the viewers and the fans out there around the world with sport. Everyone wants big, bash results in 20 minutes. Our memory span, we want more results quicker. So, cycling is a bit the same. If you flick on a stage and it's a 200k flat day, how many people are going to actually sit there and watch a 200 kilometre flat day? Or are you going to just wander off and mow the lawns, or, as Australia, probably go to bed? But, you're dealing with so much competition that, I'm constantly thinking, A, as a rider, what would I love to race? B, as a fan, what do I want to see? And then also from the people sitting at home and from the telephones or, broadcast, entertainment, because at the end of the day, it's tourism, but it's got to be entertaining as well. And, I want the riders to go home each night to the Hilton and go, man, that was a cool stage, because that's important as well. It's got to, you're trying to please everybody.
Yeah, you guys definitely have a unique template for success down there, which I wish you would share with some of the U.S. promoters, because we don't have a world tour race here for many of the reasons that you mentioned. It's not the biggest sport, but we need to find a way to make it more exciting. And, those shorter stages, staying in one hotel, not big transfers, just that tropical kind of feel of Adelaide is amazing. But what specifically, because you guys just released the 2024 program, you say that every speed bump and you want to make these races as interesting as possible. What do you have in store for the riders? Anything special for next year?
Yeah, look, every Tour Down Under, I'm going to design, it's going to be different. And, you want to do that. You want to take the race to different communities, different areas, so everyone gets a piece of the pie. And also just not copy and paste what we've done before. So it's also a good balance. I mean, we're in January, so we've got to be a little bit careful with how difficult we make the stages. Want them fun, want them exciting, want them entertaining, but also don't want to, have the peloton blown to pieces after a couple of stages and riders, hours behind. It's a bit of a balancing act when you're designing the stages. But I guess for the women's race, we've got 3 absolutely cracking stages. For the first time, we've changed the format, so the women are racing on the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So they're finishing on the weekend, which they haven't done in the past. They've kind of normally overlapped with the men's race. This is to give the women their own focus, and hopefully finishing on the weekend, the crowd numbers will be up. They've got the first time up Wollonga Hill for the women, so they've never raced internationally up there, so looking forward to that. I know the girls are pretty excited about that prospect. And for the men, we've got 6 great stages, but probably the final weekend will probably be the most difficult in TDU history, just from a point of view that we've got Wollonga Hill twice on the Saturday and then a Mount Lofty circuit on the Sunday. So the first 4 stages are relatively flat. Stage 2 in the Adelaide Hills is a little cracker. You would have loved that one, Yenzi. It's a real short, little steep hill, about 5K to go, which should set for a nice little launch pad. But the rest should be all bunch sprints. So give the sprinters time to get out there and show us how fast they can go before a really, really exciting final weekend.
And now that we talked about so much about your job and all that, how's the family, Stu? You're a father of 4, correct? And the youngest one, she's now 3 years old?
No, just coming up to 2.
Oh, yeah. So is it the first time for you that you traveled like that long and she has to stay home?
Yeah, this is it was hard to leave, as you know, as you get older, especially living so far away. It's been really nice to be home. I've really enjoyed, not traveling as much as we did when we were riding, that's for sure. But, I love Adelaide. I love being back home and watching the kids grow up and just being around. Obviously, we missed a huge chunk of that in the early days. But, look, they understand. The kids get it. Obviously, not the youngest doesn't quite yet. She was at the airport probably thinking, Dad will walk back in the door. So, no, this is a big chunk of time to be away. It's just over a month, this trip. So, look, I love this job. It's great to come back to the Tour de France. As I said, the Tour de France and the Olympics have been a really, really massive part of my life. I lived in France for 20 years. So to have the opportunity to come back here and get around my old world and bring people back in, look, it still makes me smile. So I wouldn't be here if I didn't want to do it or I didn't like it. We've got a really special thing going on with Moo Cycling, and we've got a great 3 weeks ahead of us. And then, at the same time, I whack on my Tour Down Under hat and, I get to reconnect with the teams again, the women's and the men's teams, and talk about Tour Down Under 2024. And that was really important that we released that and announced the stages before I jumped on the plane to come over here, so that, we've got something to talk about. Because I guarantee you the first thing everyone's going to want to talk about from, the World Tour is what's this stage like? What's this stage like? So it's good to be able to have all the stages presented and look forward to welcoming everyone back down in 2024.
Well, Stewie, we've taken up enough of your time. I know you have some clients to attend to, but do me one favor, because this is one of my biggest regrets. I was so scared about walking around that I stayed in a hotel where I looked out my window and I could see the Guggenheim Museum there in Bilbao. And I never once stepped foot in there. So go for a little walkabout over to
I did it yesterday.
Did you? All right.
Yeah.
So we got to get those young kids to realize that we are blessed to be able to travel the world. The lifestyle that we have is pretty special. The places that we get to see, the people that we get to meet. So I'm glad that you took that opportunity. Thank you so much today for coming on, Bobby and Jens, and good luck to you and Moo Cycling and the Tour Down Under in the future.
I really appreciate your time, guys, and thanks for the invitation. Normally run into Yenzi each year we've been over here with the commentary, but I know you'll be down in Munich doing your stuff for Eurosport. A real pleasure to chat. Great to catch up as always. And look forward to seeing you guys again one day and having a coffee.
Well, Jens, that was great. I mean, the one thing I have to realize is, okay, we are getting older. Stewie's going to turn 50 here pretty soon, but he's just done so much for the sport of cycling after he retired.
Yes, it is great to see that in his hometown, the biggest race in the Southern Hemisphere, and he is the race director of it. It is absolutely great to see. And I'm really impressed how grown up he is, right? That I'm already planning on stages on 2025. And, that he's organized, keeps the data straight and all that. It's pretty cool to see. And he's the right man for it. He is still enough of a bike racer to go, yes, I know what the riders feel like, but he's also far enough away from the peloton go, I also know what the public wants and what the TV and the sponsors want. So he's the right man in the right place. I'm so glad he got the chance to do that job.
And, some people of his stature could just phone it in, but, hit the passion and the attention to detail and the fact that, putting a big emphasis on the women's Tour Down Under as well. That can't be easy. I mean, there's so many things, and him mentioning his phone blowing up and just putting out those little fires all day long must be tough. I mean, there's a lot of us ex-pro cyclists that aren't that involved. We still love the sport, but man, he is in the trenches, isn't he?
Absolutely, he is. And I believe when it all comes to finalize all the details, I don't think the day has enough hours for him to fit everything in. Meetings with sponsors, with the TV, media, with, official government, the city mayor of Adelaide, the governor of the state of South Australia, they all have to agree, right? Meeting with the police forces, the firefighters and all that. So I think when it all comes to the final conclusions, I think he is really stressed out and doesn't have a lot of time for the family, but it all comes out as a great event.
Yep, absolutely. Miss rooming with old Stewie, hanging out in the bus with old Stewie, listening to his, let's just say, pretty special playlist of songs that we used to listen to in the old team camping car.
Yes, absolutely. And I still miss the times after the race is done and we can relax a little bit. Stewie can drink a beer quicker than a fish can drink water. It is absolutely impressive to eyewitness that.
Yeah, we can't divulge all details. We're going to have to cut that part out.
Alrighty, we do that. Well, that's all our time for this week. Huge thanks for Stewie or Stuart O'Grady or Mr. Stuart O'Grady for being our guest.
Thank you all for listening. Please don't forget to give us a 5-star review and share us with your friends.
The show was a Velo production in association with Shock Giraffe. The producer was Mark Payne, and this episode was edited by Kirk Warner.
Follow us on Twitter and Instagram @Bobby and Jens and share your cycling stories with us.